So, welcome everyone. I'm Zolita Grant, and I am so excited that you are here at the Unleash Your Brilliance Summit. This is a summit where we're aiming to motivate you, to inspire you, to encourage you, to really recognize that each and every one of you has brilliance inside, and that when you align with your own personal brilliance, you can create the life of your dreams. So, let's dive right in. Our guest today is Stephany Poe. Stephany, welcome to Unleash Your Brilliance Summit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Stephany is the owner of POEE Coaching and Consulting Limited, the author of Perfect Progression, transition from a senior account executive role in 2022 to follow her passion for helping others achieve work-life balance. The pandemic reinforced the importance of well-being, and as a corporate business consultant, Stephany is committed to integrity and honesty, partnering with leaders to enhance the workplace wellness and efficiency. With experience across corporations, nonprofits, and government entities, she has helped organizations improve the work environment through diversity, inclusion, equity. These are all words that are good words to have in our culture, and frontline staff development. Her coaching business challenges leaders to rethink leadership by enhancing communication, optimizing employee processes, and implementing negotiating strategies to increase revenue and improve morale. Stephany holds degrees in organizational leadership, sales and marketing, and a master's in legal studies from Sandra Day O'Connor's College of Law. Her expertise in business and compliance enables her to lead impactful training sessions that drive corporate and individual wellness. Thank you, Stephany, for coming. All of Stephany's social media links are in the speaker portal, and I really encourage you to get in touch with Stephany directly. So, Stephany, your brilliance really comes from what it is that you do. So,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about how you got into what you do, and how it helps you and others.
Yes, thank you for that wonderful introduction. How I got into what I do now, I remember working for another small business prior to going into business for myself. And I was working on an extensive project. It was very massive. It was at least over $1 million of a project that I had to deal with and I had to handle in a male dominated industry. And the one thing that remained consistent in those industries, whether it was male or female dominated industries, is that there is a lack of balance within the workplace in terms of overworking, burnout, lack of communication, miscommunication, workplace challenges that continues to derail businesses today, and somehow, somewhere, no one has figured out what the issues were. And so, in that role of mine that I had, I learned that there are different generations that work together in the workplace. One generation is saying that there's an issue with the younger generation is saying there's an issue with the older generation, and every other generation's in between, but there are so many different commonalities. And so, by way of that particular business that I was working with, I actually was laid off. And in the process of being laid off, I took a sabbatical and decided, you know what, I'm going to continue to write my book project. I have time to focus. And in the process of writing, it came to me that I can actually teach other organizations exactly how to improve their businesses. I've done it in other organizations. As it's stated in my bio, I've done it in various forms. So now I can do this for myself and looking for different opportunities. Of course, we know how the job market is, and I'm sure it's even more challenging today. I decided instead of looking for what I want, I will create the position that I want to have. Thus, Poe Coaching and Consulting was born.
So, that's exactly what it is that I'm encouraging you all to think of. But many people have a dream, but then they become plagued with self doubt. Have you ever experienced that, and how have you worked it through?
Oh, absolutely. Self-doubt is a dis-ease that we all experience at some point in time in our lives. And I can remember many points in my life, especially in my earlier years, as a young adult, entered into the workplace, thinking if I have the capabilities to do the position, the task required, thinking if I have the knowledge or the degree, the paper to actually perform the skill sets needed to get the job done. I mean, even as a business owner, sometimes I have self doubt. However, what gets me through that self doubt is the fact that I know I can do it. I had to go back to moments in time in my life where I've been faced with the exact same challenge, just with different players, different environment, different energy and atmosphere. And remember that, you know what? I actually excelled at this. And oftentimes, when people are asking a question, I like terms. So I ask for individuals' definition of that specific term so I can speak directly to what it is that they're asking for. Once I learned how to ask for a specific definition to the question or the terminology in the question, it helped me understand exactly how much information to give and how much information to receive. And so that is what's helped my self doubt completely disappear.
So, one of the things that I think we should highlight here is the importance of clear communication.
Yes. And I'm a huge communicator. And I will ask, what is your definition of that particular term? And
Yes.
also open mindedness. Be open minded to the fact that you don't know everything. And there's another perspective that can be introduced into your perspective that can give you a different solution or idea as to how to solve something, how to create something, or how to move forward.
And this is where we have to take a look at the importance of mindset, being able to have a growth mindset. Have
Yes.
you ever found in your journey that you had to like change your mindset in any way?
I did. And for me, I remember I was in school obtaining a bachelor's degree during this time, and I was closing in towards the end of it. I remember asking my older sister, I think I want a little bit more. I'm thinking about going to law school. What do you think? And she said, well, you do argue really well, so I think you'll do great. And so I thought that that was the craziest thing I've ever heard. She's my older sister. And so I went to my younger sister and I asked her the same question. She gave me the same answer. I mean, verbatim. I thought that was the craziest thing ever. And so as I'm sitting here contemplating on whether or not to go to law school, this is an expensive commitment. That's number one. It is a lot of reading, a lot of comprehension, critical thinking, all of that. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to actually do it. And so I drug my feet into applying. But in the process of dragging my feet, my older sister ended up passing away. And I was completely distraught at her passing. It was untimely. She was 32 at the time. And in her passing, I went to my younger sister. We had a conversation. And then 8 months later, my younger sister passed away.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so in the process of my younger sister passing away, I completely broke into a billion pieces.
Oh,
My foundation was completely destroyed. The ground beneath me was shaken. I didn't know what to do, how to move forward, how to do anything. But because of the steps that I've taken in the past in regards to completing goals, whether they're personal goals or educational goals or professional goals, I've always been able to complete those goals. Those were muscle memory built inside of myself. And so in the process of dragging my feet, I ended up completing the application. And the day that I buried my younger sister was the day I was accepted into law school. And that was the time or the pivotal moment in my life where my mindset did change. Now, I know for many people, it doesn't necessarily have to take that much or that level of intensity, but for some people, it does take that level of intensity. And life happens. Life keeps lifing. That's what a great friend of mine says. And for those that are watching this and you understand about life is lifing, how do you move forward? How do you change your mindset? You use the opportunities in front of you to see a better way, see a different perspective. And I use this opportunity to take myself out of my familiar environment and moved myself literally across the United States to a whole different state and city and town where I knew no one, had no friends, no family, and started my life anew. And my world changed. That's when my mindset changed. Before that, I would have never traveled outside of my familiar environment. That point, I traveled and I traveled all the time, but to live outside of my familiar environment, that was something I wouldn't have done. But I did, and I'm glad I made that decision. It was one of the best decisions I've made in a long time.
What do you think gave you that clarity?
Intentions. So
Okay.
the thing about clarity is intentionality. I was very intentional about my goal. I knew that in the moments of my sister's passing away, there was a split second in time where I thought I would just stop progressing in terms of education or career. I can stop. But I knew that if I stopped, I would never go back. I would never complete because it is too long. And school is a career. College is a career and it takes a lot of commitment, time frames, schedules, essays, communication, social groups, involvement, activity. It takes a lot of energy just to deal with education in the college sense and to deal with life on top of all of that, plus life experiences. I knew that if I stopped, I'd never go back. So I was very clear on my intentions, and my intentions was to complete an education process or pathway to achieving that degree in law. That's what I really wanted to do because I wanted to understand complexities from a legal perspective. And that was bigger than anything else at that time.
And it seems like that's saved the foundation for the consulting and coaching business that you've really built.
Yes, it's not only saved it, but it has transformed it. It has improved it, modified it, innovated. And I am so grateful to be in this space because I have so much freedom. Of course, I love autonomy, and I work very well in that creative space. But it's opened doors for other areas of law and how to understand legal professionals in that space and what they go through. And as a self-care advocate, I understand. And to myself, with this foundation, I have to bring self care in this space because we lack it. And when we lack it, it shows in various spaces in our life, whether we realize it or not.
I think this is an area that we can really expand in because I find personally that the ability to have the consistency that you're talking about to achieve high level goals requires a balance of what I think of as extreme self care.
Absolutely. There's a balance in everything. And that's the biggest thing. Whenever we are looking to achieve something, or obtain something, we're going to have to go through various steps. And so with each step of leveling up, there are going to be a new level of obstacles because in order to say you've gotten past something in your professional space and your personal space and your social space or whatever other spaces you have, the universe has a very interesting way of saying, oh yeah, well, let me throw this obstacle at you to double check and make sure you've gotten past it. And it does. It comes back, and it comes back sometimes in the form of individuals that you may not recognize, but there is some sense of familiarity there, but you can't quite
Hmm.
put your finger on it. So,
Hmm.
how you choose to respond is up to you. And that balance, whenever we're looking to achieve these things or goals, it's not always about me, me, me. And of course, we're achieving goals, but what are we going to give? In order to receive, we need to give. That's the
Hmm.
balance. Give and receive. It's always a balance.
Yes, I totally agree with you. You know, I find for myself having habits
Yes,
or almost like rituals that I do in my life
absolutely.
really help to sustain me. Do you find the same thing? And what are some of the habits that you have?
I do. One of my habits that I have been doing for years is meditation. I meditate early in the morning, sometimes 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I will meditate for a minimum of 10 minutes. And if it calls for it, I can go up to 8 hours at a time. I mean, sitting in complete silence and centering myself, grounding myself, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose, focusing on how the air flows in and out my nose. That is how I keep my thoughts from going all over the place, because you're going to think as you meditate. It's going to happen,
Mhm.
but focus on your breathing. That's what helps quiet the mind down. And when you do that, the thoughts are going to be there, but they're going to be very quiet. And then you're going to hear some other knowledge. You're going to get other downloads that you need to get for yourself. You're going to get clarity. You're going to be centered. And it's going to help you in spaces of intensity. So if you're in the workplace or you're in a different setting where you're going to have to interact with individuals, you never know how people are going to react and respond to anything. And in today's climate, there's a lot of sensitivity out there. And so, in order to maintain your balance within yourself and be self controlled and aware, when you meditate, at least for me, it helps me react emotionally, excuse me, not emotionally, logically, not emotionally, excuse me. When I meditate, it takes out the emotion in those intense situations. I don't need to respond emotionally. I think first. And
Mhm.
then I'm open minded about it and think, you know what? That's an interesting way of looking at it. That's an interesting way of saying something. I can see that perspectives. I'm more open minded. So that's one of the things that I do. That's one of my rituals is meditation. I also do some journaling. Journaling
Mhm.
definitely helps because for those of us that are having challenges with finding that confidant that can talk to us and not spread our business to any and everybody willing to listen, I journal because the pages don't talk back. So the pages don't talk back, but it doesn't hurt to journal as well so you can get those real thoughts out. It's a way of release. You don't carry that emotion or energy within you. You leave it there on the piece of paper. And if
Mhm.
going to a confidant, if you have one of those in your spaces, helps, then do that. But make sure that confidant is somebody that is going to hold you accountable, because we do need those people in our lives to hold us accountable for the actions or non actions that we take.
I think that is actually one of the most beneficial things of having a mentor or a coach is
Absolutely.
that you have accountability for your own dreams. Because if our
Absolutely.
dreams are just wisps in our minds and we don't have steps to make them happen, they never actually do happen.
Yes, and it's so funny that we say about the dreams is because um when we're dreaming, we're creating. And
Hmm.
creativity per person is defined very uniquely, which I understand. I cannot, as an individual, give someone my specific definition of what creativity means, but I do know how to do it. I do know how to put myself in position to receive opportunities. And that itself is creativity. We don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to physically do something with our hands or have a lot of mind power. But if we can put ourselves in position to receive an opportunity, then that's creative in itself.
So, what part do you think intuition plays?
I think intuition plays in all those parts, really, because life is lifing. There's so many different distractions in this world. And again, in today's climate, there's a lot of sensitivity out there. There is a lot of perspectives, and some of those perspectives can be a bit jaded. Some of them can be a bit biased, and that's okay, to each his own. But where intuition comes in, it's also coupled with self awareness.
Hmm.
Because if you are intuitive or you choose to use your intuitive skill, because everybody has it, whether they believe
Right.
it or not, we all have it. How you use it or don't use it is a different story.
Mhm.
But couple that with self aware. If you are self aware of how you react and respond, or in situations, you can pretty much pick up on triggers on what could possibly trigger an emotional response from you. Picking that up, that's intuition.
Hmm.
You pick, that's a sense that you get this feeling in your stomach that something is different, something is off, something is I'm not sure. That's intuition, and we use it all the time. People give it different words, people give it different definitions, but on today's call, on today's meet, I'm here to tell you, you get butterflies in your stomach about a situation, about a person, about whatever, and it can be good, bad, or discomfort butterflies. It doesn't really matter. That's your intuition speaking to you, telling you, hey, we've been here before. This is
Right.
familiar. Now we're in time. is this familiarity pops up for you. We know what this is going to do. Now, you as the individual, when you recognize that, now you have a choice. You can choose to respond or you can choose not to respond. You can choose to be there or you can choose not to be there. And if you choose to be there, then you also can choose how you're going to play in that particular role, being in that particular space.
So that pause between the experience and not reacting to the experience, but making a choice, I think that pause is really enhanced through processes like meditation and
Yes.
prayer and being in nature.
Yes, it definitely is. And living out here on the West Coast in Arizona, we have mountains everywhere. I love hiking. I will go out and go hiking. I love yoga. Get the blood flowing through the body. Sometimes we need to step outside of the home because a lot of us do work from home. And then there
Mhm.
are some of us that work in the office. Go take a walk around. Go get out in nature. It's beautiful outside. The birds are beautiful. The trees are beautiful. The flowers are beautiful. Get that pause helps you figure out which way you're going to move if you listen and if you actually apply it. But again, it's a choice and it's up to you on how you choose to move forward.
So how do you answer the person that says, I think self-care is selfish?
That's so good for you. So here's the thing. I love when people say that to me because most people are selfish for the wrong reasons anyways. Most
Uh-huh.
people are selfish at the extent of harming others, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
Care is supposed to be selfish because you're supposed to care for yourself. How are you going to care for others if you cannot care for yourself? I'll ask that question. I challenge that. That's the question I use to challenge. The second thing is, what does self care look like for you? And
Hmm.
most of the time, when people say those questions to me, they do not have a form of self care. Their self care is constant work. So they do not have any balance between work and play or work and rest. Or if there is a space for rest, they need to be busy. And busy isn't always productive, it's just busy.
Yes, you're
So,
absolutely right. So weaving self-care into your calendar. One
yes,
of the things that I do is I color coordinate my calendar. So my social activities are orange, my personal care is green, my spiritual activities are purple, business is red, client services are blue, and brown is miscellaneous.
I love it.
And then every week I turn my phone on the side and I look at the pattern to
Mhm.
see whether or not my life is balanced.
I love that. I actually color coordinate my calendars. I use different color markers to actually mark what I'm doing for the week. And I have two whiteboards and my phone, of course, and my laptop calendars. But I really love to utilize my whiteboards in my home. And I use those in my office, two of them, so I can see this month, next month, carve out time. And even more recently, I've decided to take out a week in a month to actually focus more on self care, making sure that I put that in there because if I don't have any care for myself any time in the month, I am going to be a stressed out individual. And believe it or not, people, stress can kill you. I've been sick before from being stressed physically. And this all happened, of course, when my sisters passed away in between the time. So I remember those moments.
Yeah.
And I make it a point to implement some form of self care in my life on a daily basis, even if it's a little bit. Stop work at 6, 7 o'clock at night. Maybe not get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I'll get up at 8. Maybe
Right.
I'll get up at 7.
So, this is what helps to create resilience. And resilience is one of the things that we have to start building more into our people, into our communities. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you see resilience and how you develop it.
I see resilience as a way of just doing things, a way of moving forward. I had so many women, and I still have women, and I have men as well, who have been in my life at some point in time who has shown me something and taught me something about myself. And in regards to how to experience the resilience or how to actually build it, you're going to have to go through the hard times. There is no shortcut to success. There
Yeah.
isn't. You're going to have to put in the work and you're going to have to consistently put in the work. Everyone doesn't have to show up, but you have to show up. And keep that in mind because if you don't show up for you, then I challenge you with this question. How do you expect for others to show up for you if you don't show up for yourself? I remember being in a nonprofit at the time and we were coaching women.
Oh no, you froze.
How
You
about now?
froze. So repeat what you were saying, okay?
Okay, sorry about that. So, I can remember a time where I had to facilitate a meet and greet for a nonprofit that I was involved in. And only one person showed up after we sent out 50 different invitations. It was my first facilitation and I had to do it. I still showed up. I showed up on time. I had all my documentations together. And it was such an amazing opportunity that we ended up becoming great friends. And she's still in
Mhm.
my circle today. And this was many years ago.
Wonderful.
So showing up for yourself, honestly, is how you build resilience. That's how I've been able to build resilience. And you're going to have the naysayers. You're going to have the haters. You're going to have people who do not understand why you're doing the things you're doing, why you've making the choice that you've made. And that's okay. You don't have to explain everything to everyone. As long as you understand it and you know it and it is purposeful, you're fine. You're building your resilience because the next challenge, all the things that you've gone through in life, is helping you face the next challenge. And you're going to have more confidence, more oomph, and triumph to face it with resilience.
That sounds great. I think you have some opportunities coming up for our audience. You want to share about them?
Yes, I do. So Poe Coaching and Consulting, we specialize in bridging the gaps between generations and workspaces. I have titled myself the Bridger of Generations because each generation has taken something from one another to pass down the line and for us to implement, even the younger generation today.
Hmm.
And they've built pathways for us to continue to innovate on that resilience. We're some pretty resilient people. And
Hmm.
so March is Women's History Month. And for the month of March, we've decided to offer a mini workshop, which is Competent Mirrors, which is one of the segments of my entire leadership workshop that I have. My workshops are usually 3 days, 4 hours, with the exception of one, at about 5 grand. This particular mini workshop is only an hour and a half at 1 grand. It could be virtual, it could be in person if local to the Arizona area. And there's a link that I can also send out below. It should be in the flyer, where you can actually schedule a 30-minute call with me and we can jump on Zoom and we can talk about what to expect. Now, I know people have asked, what are competent mirrors? Competent mirrors, and as far as pro coaching is concerned, it focuses on identifying leader behaviors and strengths to optimize key performance. There's some takeaways that'll be in the flyer as well. And so another one is my book, Perfect Progression. It is my first book project. It is currently available for pre-order. There's a deposit required, but it goes towards the entire purchase of the book. And that's also available. The link is on my website as well. So those are the specials that I have: the book, my mini workshop, Competent Mirrors, and go ahead and click on the link and we can schedule a meeting. We can talk about it further.
Oh, that sounds absolutely great. You've brought a lot of really important information to our audience today. I'd like you to just take a moment and think about if you had like one thing that you would really want our audience to take away, what would that one thing really be?
Tomorrow is never promised, so do it today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you, everyone, for coming. And we'll see you next time. I'm Zolita Grant, and this is the Unleash Your Brilliance Summit.